You notice the fire is dying before anyone says it. At first, it is only smaller, a few red eyes in the ash. A thin line of smoke, then the wind changes. The last coal turns dark, the circle of light shrinks. And beyond it, the night seems to move closer. No one laughs now, no one keeps talking. Because in the ancient world, a dead fire was not a small inconvenience, it could change the whole night. Today, if the power goes out, you may still have walls, blankets, a phone light, canned food, a stove, matches, batteries, and help nearby. Ancient humans had none of that. If the fire went out at the wrong time, the darkness became colder. Food became harder, predators felt closer. Insects came back, wet clothes stayed wet. And the group had to answer a frightening question. Could they survive without fire? The simple answer is yes. Humans existed before controlled fire became common. People can survive for a time without flames, but the better answer is more dangerous. Once a group depended on fire, losing it could become a survival emergency. Fire was not only a bright thing in the middle of camp. It was heat, it was light, it was cooking, it was protection, it was dry ground, it was smoke, it was a tool for making other tools. It was a place where people gathered, watched, repaired, taught, and remembered. Archaeologists have found evidence of ancient fire use in deep time, though the timing and regularity are still debated. At Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, burned material deep inside the cave has been interpreted as evidence for controlled fire around 1 million years ago. Other Paleolithic hearths show maintained fire at campsites, with burned sediment, ash, charcoal, bones, and stone tools changed by heat. Researchers studying combustion in the Paleolithic often point out that fire gave humans heat, light, cooked food, predator protection, and the ability to transform materials. So imagine losing all of that in one night. The first danger was cold. Not just winter cold, night cold, rain cold, wine cold. The cold that comes after sweat, wet ground, and tired bodies. A modern person can underestimate this because modern life hides temperature from us. Walls hold heat, clothes are dry, beds lift us from the ground. Ancient humans often had fewer barriers. A fire could dry damp hides, it could warm hands and feet. It could make a cave, shelter, or open camp feel survivable. Without it, the group had to use bodies instead. They might huddle close, they might move away from wind. They might sleep behind rocks, bushes, or a shelter wall. They might put children and weaker people in the center. They might use dry grass, leaves, hides, bark, or branches as insulation. The second danger was food. Could ancient humans eat without fire? Sometimes, yes. They could eat fruit, nuts, honey, marrow, some roots, shellfish, fresh meat in some conditions, and other foods depending on place and season. But cooking changed the game. It softened tough foods. It made some foods safer. It made chewing easier. It helped unlock more energy from many foods. It also expanded what could be eaten comfortably. Without fire, a group might still eat. But their menu could shrink. Hard roots might stay hard. Old meat might become riskier. Cold food might give less comfort. And if the group was already tired, hungry, wet, or moving through a harsh season, losing cooked food could matter. The third danger was darkness. Darkness does not only hide things from you, it also hides you from each other. A child moves a few steps and disappears. Someone hears a branch break but cannot tell whether it is wind, a person, or an animal. A tool is dropped and lost. A wound cannot be checked. A snake, scorpion, or sharp stone becomes harder to avoid. Fire extended the day. It gave a camp a center. It let people repair tools, prepare food, watch faces, tell stories, and stay awake in shifts. Without fire, the group was pushed back into the limits of the sun. The fourth danger was fear. This may sound less practical, but it mattered. At night, a small sound can become huge. A shape outside the shelter can become a threat. The mind fills empty darkness with danger. A fire does not make predators vanish. But light changes behavior. Smoke changes the air. Human voices around a fire change the feeling of a place. A campfire says, "People are here." Without it, the group may feel scattered, smaller, and more exposed. This does not mean ancient humans were helpless in darkness. They knew night better than we do. They knew moonlight, stars, wine, animal calls, and the sound of their own camp. But fire made night more manageable. Losing it removed one of the group's strongest psychological tools. So what would they do when the fire went out? First, they would check for life in the ash. A fire that looks dead may still hide a coal. A tiny ember can be worth more than a tool. Someone might lean close, shield the ash from wind, and search for a red glow. Someone might bring dry grass, bark fibers, seed fluff, rotten wood, or other tinder. Someone might blow gently. Not too hard, enough to feed the ember. If the ember brightened, the whole camp might become silent with hope. A small coal could become smoke, smoke could become flame, flame could become safety again. This is why carrying fire may have mattered. Before every group could reliably make fire whenever they wanted, keeping embers alive may have been a serious skill. A glowing coal could be protected in bark, ash, fungus, dry grass, or other slow-burning material. A person might carry it during movement, another might check it often. If rain came, protecting the ember could become as important as protecting food, because starting from a living coal is easier than starting from nothing. But what if there was no coal? Then the group had harder choices. Could someone make fire by friction or sparks? Maybe. Depending on the time, place, tools, and knowledge, fire making is not a magic trick. It needs the right materials, dry tinder, good wood, skill, patience, weather that does not ruin everything. If the world is soaked, the best fire maker can struggle. If the group has lost the right toolkit, knowledge alone may not be enough. So survival without fire was partly a race against conditions. If it was a warm, dry night, they might endure. If it was cold rain, the danger rose. If there were young children, injured people, or elders, the danger rose again. If predators or insects were heavy in the area, the fire's absence mattered more. If the group had food that needed cooking, hunger could grow faster. The answer depended on context. Ancient life always did. One group in a tropical coast might survive a fireless night by huddling, eating raw shellfish or fruit, and waiting for morning. Another group in a cold open landscape might face a much sharper crisis. A third group caught in rain with wet fuel might have to move to shelter before trying again. A fourth group might send someone to a nearby camp to borrow fire. That last idea is important. Fire was not always only a technical problem, it could be a social problem. If another human group was nearby, you might get fire through exchange, kinship, friendship, or risky negotiation. A shared flame could mean alliance. Refusing fire could mean danger. In a world without matches, a neighbor's ember could be a lifeline. But approaching another group at night could also be dangerous. So losing fire could force a social decision. Stay cold, try to make flame, move camp, or seek help. This is the counterintuitive part. The most important fire survival skill may not have been making fire from nothing. It may have been not losing it in the first place. Keep fuel dry, keep embers covered. Assign someone to watch the fire, move coals before rain arrives. Store tinder away from damp ground, build camp where wine will not steal the flame. Do not let the last coal die while everyone sleeps. Prevention could matter more than heroics. Because once the fire was gone, every other problem became harder. You can still walk without fire. You can still think without fire. You can still survive for a while, but the world becomes narrower. Night becomes longer, food becomes less forgiving. Cold becomes more dangerous, fear becomes louder, and the group must spend energy solving a problem they had already solved yesterday. That may be why fire became so deeply human. Not because one flame changed everything forever in a single moment, but because, again and again, fire turned the environment from impossible into manageable. It made darkness social, it made cold survivable. It made food more useful, it made tools better. It made camp feel like camp. So could ancient humans survive without fire? Yes, for a night, perhaps, for a season, in some places, maybe. For a whole way of life after fire had become central, that is much harder. The better question is not whether one person could live through one fireless night. The better question is how much of ancient human life depended on keeping a small glowing thing alive. Imagine the group again. The fire is almost gone. The children are quiet, the wind is wet. The darkness beyond the camp feels too close. Then someone kneels in the ash. They find one red coal. They protect it with both hands. They feed it dry fibers, they breathe carefully. A thread of smoke rises, then a tiny flame appears. And the group leans toward it, not because they are weak, but because they understand exactly what has returned. Warmth, light, food. Safety. Memory. The night is still dangerous, the world is still hard. But the center of camp is alive again, and sometimes, in the ancient world, survival may have depended on keeping that center from going dark. If you enjoyed this journey into the distant past, subscribe for more stories about ancient humans and human evolution.